What's up everybody, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to show you how to put together a solid web development toolkit. Now these are some of the tools that I use when I'm developing websites locally on my computer, and I find them to be very helpful. Alright, so the first thing that you should get is the Atom text editor. So you go to atom.io. Now this is a great text editor. It's cross-platform compatible. It's good for Windows, Macs, and Linux computers. It gives you all the functionality you need in order to develop locally. It has syntax highlighting. It has numbered lines. It has a very good find in project, find in the current file features and replacement features. It has pretty much what you need to get started, and it's free. So just download the version for your computer, and once it's done downloading, just open it up. Just double click on the setup icon, and it will start installing on your computer. Once it's done installing, you're going to get this welcome screen over here. You can open a project, you can look at version control with Git and GitHub, you can install packages, choose a theme, customize the styling of it. You can even create your own scripts for it. You can add snippets, and there's keyboard shortcuts that are very helpful. Alright, so definitely check it out. It's a great text editor. Now the next thing you're going to need is, if you're working with PHP or a dynamic programming language, or if you're working with a content management system like WordPress, you're going to need a local server. So there's a couple you could choose from. The most widely known ones are MAMP, RAMP, and XAMPP. I'm using MAMP, so I'll just go to MAMP, the website. And then this is good for Windows and Mac computers. If you're looking for something for Linux, you could use XAMPP, which is good for Windows, Macs, and Linux as well. Or you could just build out a LAMP stack. Now I'm going to download MAMP over here. I'm going to get the Windows version. And once that's done, you can just go back to your downloads folder and just double click that icon. And then go through the prompts over here. Now this is going to be similar for both Windows and Mac computers. Click OK. Next, we don't need the MAMP Pro. We're just going to use the free version. Accept the license agreement. Click on Next. If you want a desktop icon, you can choose that. And then it'll install MAMP on your computer. Now this is for a local web server. Websites, dynamic websites, they have to live on a web server, typically in a data center. And when you want to develop locally, which is the best practice, you're going to need a local server. So that's what MAMP provides you, a safe environment on your computer for you to test out your code, test out your ideas, and then once you're done, you could just upload your files to your web server. For that part, you would need FileZilla, which is an FTP program. But MAMP is a good local web server to use. Once it's done, you can click on Finish. Now you have that. In order to start it up, press your Windows key, type out MAMP, and now we're starting our web server. You can open a start page, and this is the start page for MAMP on your computer. It's at localhost/MAMP/. This gives you some basic information about your local server. You can check out your websites. You can look at your PHP info. This will tell you your features that you have for your current PHP installation. The tools, we're going to be using PHPMyAdmin. And if you want to look at more of the facts, you can check this out over here. So this is your local web server. Whenever you're going to work with WordPress or any PHP code or any dynamic programming language, you're going to need something like this on your system. The next thing I like to install is called Git. Git is a version control system, and it's very helpful, especially if you're trying out new ideas. You can create branches of that ideas that don't impact your production website. And then once you're done with finalizing your ideas in your code, you can then bring it over towards your main master branch. Alright, so to get that, you'll go to, and you would download the version of Git for your computer. So for this one, it's saying to download for Windows. If you're on a Mac, it would say download for Mac. Just download it. It'll start the process. And now it's completed. With Git, you're going to get Git Bash, which is a way for you to use Linux-like or Unix-like commands right on your Windows computer. It's the way you're going to interact with Git. So we're going to go over here to our downloads folder, double click on Git. We're going to go to the prompts. We're going to keep all the default settings over here just to keep it simple. We're going to use git from git bash only, so that way it doesn't interact or interfere with our Windows command prompt. We're going to use the OpenSSL library. We're going to check out Windows style and commit Unix style line endings. We'll use Minty. We'll leave those as the default settings. Click on install. Once the installation process is complete, you could just click on the launch git bash over here and click finish. And this is where you're going to use most of your commands. So if you want to check out the version of git that you have, you could type out git -- version, and it'll show you what version of git you have installed. You could use all your Unix commands right here within git bash. Alright, so another thing that you're going to need is a good web browser. Now, the ones that I recommend are Firefox and Chrome. Reason why I recommend those is because they provide very good developer tools. I'm currently using Firefox. So, for instance, if I want to inspect the elements over here on this page, I can do that. And I can see all the information about this website. I can see how they're structuring their CSS. I can look at the computed rules. There's a lot of information here that you could use in order to analyze your website and see how it's structured. And this is going to be helpful when you're developing your websites, because you'll be able to find out if there's any issues here and how it's being computed in a web browser. So that's why I like Firefox, and I like Chrome as well. Now, the next thing I like to do is I like to install Gulp. And Gulp is a task manager that makes your workflow and productivity a lot better. So in order to do that, we need the Node package manager, and we need Node.js for that. So we go to nodejs.org, and then you would download the version for your computer. Whether you're on a Mac or Windows, this is going to be the same. And I recommend using the LTS, the long-term support version. So we download that. And then once it's completed, go back to your downloads folder, double click on that node icon, click on the icons right there, accept the license agreement, choose the location on your computer, and then click install. Once it's done installing, click on finish, and then if you want, you could open up a command prompt, and then you can check out your node version. We have 6.11, and then with that you get the Node package manager as well. Alright, so now that we have that done, let's move on to the next step. What I want to do now is I want to go and download WordPress itself. I'll download the latest version. Once it's done downloading, you can just go back to your downloads folder. You can extract it here. Once that's done extracting, you can just take the folder itself, you can copy it. And then I want to go to the MAMP folder. So we're going to go here. We'll look for MAMP. We're going to look for the htdocs folder. Double click on that. And now we can paste WordPress there. Now if you want, you could rename this file here. And you can go inside and see the different files and folders, the themes and plugins that you have. This is a default installation. Alright, so once you have that done, you'll go back to your browser. And now we're going to create a database for that. We'll go over here to Tools, PHPMyAdmin. We're going to create a database for WordPress. We'll go to Databases. Over here, you could give it a database name of your choosing. I recommend something unique for your production website, but for your local installation, this is in a safe environment, so you could just choose a database name that you want. Click on Create, and then you can go back over here, go to My Website, and now you see in the index, you have WordPress right there. Click on that, go through the setup prompts. That's the database name, or whatever database name you gave it. Submit. Run the install, and then give it a site title. You're going to want to choose something for your production website. You're going to want to choose a username and password that is extremely difficult to guess and to crack. But for your local desktop, for your local environment, you could choose something a little bit more lenient. Install WordPress. Once that's done, you can log in. and now you're in the back end of your local WordPress website. Now what I want to do is I want to set up Git. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to Git Bash. If you're on a Mac, you could just go into your terminal. You're going to want to go to the directory where your WordPress website is at. So for Windows, it's going to be, we're going to change directories. And I'm going to go into my themes folder because I'm going to install Git within the themes folder itself. We can see what's in there now. Right now we have the index.php, which is an empty file. You have the default themes. We have the 2015, 2017, 2016. And now to get started, we could just type out git init. And now you have Git installed in this particular folder. And you can verify that by typing out ls-la. A is for looking for invisible files. And now you see we have the .git folder over here. Now we can type out git status. And it tells you that we have untracked files. Now this is version control. And I'm going to give you just a couple of quick tips with this. And I'll do another video going in depth on how to use Git, because there's a lot of features involved with it. But basically what this is doing is keeping track of your various files and folders, any changes. And it's a great way to increase your productivity when coding and to make sure that you can revert to an earlier version in case you make a mistake. So now we have Git installed in that folder. And now from here, I'm just going to remove the default themes for 2015 and 2016. And I'm going to leave the 2017 theme in there. So I'll just type out. Now that should be gone. We can confirm that again. And now 2015 is no longer there. And I'm going to do the same thing for the 2016 theme. And now we see we only have 2017. We can type out git status. And since we didn't commit the previous version with the 2015 and 2016, we don't see them here. Now we could add these files to Git so it could track it. So in order to do that, we can type out git add. And we're going to just use the period. And it's going to add everything. And now if we type out git status again, we see all of these items over here that are going to be added. So in order to do that, we need to commit them. They're already added, but now we have to commit these files and folders. So in order to do that, let me just move back to the top of the screen. We can type out git commit -m. M is for message. We need to use the quotation marks. And in here, we can type out our first commit message. So we're typing out git commit -m and then our message. If we type out git status again, we see now that everything's committed. We're working from a clean tree. We can type out git log, and we can see the log number for our first one. This is the master branch, first commit for our project. All right, so that's good. Now the next step is I want to install Gulp. So I'm going to give you this snippet right here. We're using the node package manager. We're installing, and then -- global gulp -cli. Press return. Once it's done installing, you're going to see all this information presented. We're going to clear the screen, go back to the top. Now we can check if that impacted our git status. And it didn't, because we just installed Gulp globally. Now inside of our project folder, and we're going to be installing Gulp over here in the themes folder, we're going to want to keep it independent of our themes. So we'll put it in the root of the themes folder itself. So for that we can use make dir, and we can label this dev project. We'll check to see if that worked. And now we see we have the dev-project folder here. So inside there, we're going to change directory. And now we see we're inside of the dev-project. There's nothing in there currently. We could check out if there's any invisibles. Nothing there. Now in this folder over here, we're going to type out npm install -- save -dev Gulp. So what this is doing is installing Gulp in your dev dependencies. So it's npm install space dash dash save dash dev space Gulp. Press enter. It'll run through its process. Let's clear the screen. Let's type out ls-la again. Now we see we have the node modules. So now we can go back to our text editor. We can add a project folder. MAMP. Go to htdocs. And from here you could add the whole entire WordPress folder itself. Or you can just go into the themes folder. So we'll click on that. And now we see we have the dev-project there. You see it's green because we need to add that. So if we go back to our previous directory in the themes, we can check out our git status. And we see we have to add the dev-project folder. That's the good part of the Atom text editor. It works in conjunction with Git. So you'll get these notifications over here. If it's green, it's telling you that we need to add this folder. So we can do that here. Check out Git status. So now we could commit it. And you want to give yourself a good message so that way if you need to refer to a previous version, you know what changes you made. So here I'm going to say created the dev-project folder. And now we're working from a clean tree. We go back to our text editor. Now that folder is no longer green. All right, so over here we can do a couple of things. We're going to want to add a file. We're going to call this file. You see it's over here in the dev-project folder. We're going to call this file Gulp file, and then we're going to save it as a JS, which is a JavaScript file. So we created that file. So you see now it turned back to green. And now I'm just going to add a quick snippet of code here. So now we just added this very basic snippet over here. What I like about Atom is that it gives you syntax highlighting, and you can see that it identifies the opening and closing brackets. This is a great way for you to determine if you have everything you need opened and closed. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to create another file. So in that same project folder, we'll click on New File. And we're going to name it package.json. Now here we're going to put in some information. We'll put in the opening and closing curly brace. Give it some space. We're going to put quotation marks and then name. And then in quotation marks again, we can give our project a name. So we're going to call this one dev.wp. Put a comma and then a version number. And then a description. I'm going to speed through this process and I'll just explain what this is. Alright, so now what I did is I gave it a name. So I gave up our name to be dev.wp, version number, a description, the main file, the author, license. So these are some of the dev dependencies we're going to be working with. Auto prefixer, browser sync, Gulp obviously. We're going to be using JS hint, which is going to be linting our JavaScript. We can always make sure we're using the latest versions, which with newer. We're going to be installing post CSS, Sass, which is a way to speed up your workflow when working with cascading style sheets or CSS, and source maps. So that's that. So now what we want to do is go back to our git bash. We'll go back to the dev folder. So here we can type out npm install. So what's going to happen now is since we already created this file manually, the node package manager is going to install everything that's inside of the package.json file. So let me just show you that here. So you see we have the package.json file there. So if we type out npm install, it'll run through the process and start installing all of those different plugins for Gulp. Alright, so you'll see what it installed. And now if we go back to our text editor, we can go in there, go into the modules folder, and these are everything that's installed. Now if you ever need to delete stuff, you could always use the npm prune. It'll look for anything that's no longer in your package.json file. And if it's not there, then it'll remove it. So let me remove something from here. I'm going to take that out for now. Save. Let's run that command again. Now you see it's going to remove the auto prefixer. We'll put that back in. And then npm install, it'll go back to the package.json file. And it should install the auto prefixer again. And it didn't. All right. So now I want to go back to our text editor over here. I'll minimize that. Go back to our gulp file.js. And I'm going to tweak this a little bit. I'm going to add my code here and then I'll explain what it's doing. All right, so from here I'm creating my theme name and we're going to download underscores, which is a starter theme, and we're going to name it devwp. So we're just doing the preliminary work for that. Then I'm requiring gulp. Then I'm also requiring the auto prefixer, browser sync, post CSS, gulp Sass, source maps, JS hint, and I'm adding these two as well, the concat and uglify. And I'll show you how to install that now. Gulp newer. And then I'm creating the name for our working theme folder. I'm going through the Sass, which is the way we're going to be working with our CSS in order to make it more efficient and productive. This is for our JavaScript. Now this is our watch task, and this is so we can see it in the browser when we're on our network. So if we go to our iPhone or Android phone and we put in this information, we'll be able to see our local website. And then we have our watch over here as well. All right, so now in our package.json, we don't have those other two files. So now we're going to install those. I'm going to show you a different way besides just installing it here. I'm going to show you how to do it via the command line. We'll go back to our git bash. And then here you want to put in this snippet of code, npm install space -- save - dev gulp - concat. And then it'll install that into your installation. You can go back over here. In our package.json file, now we see that gulp concat has been installed. Now I also want to do the same thing, but for uglify. Alright, so now we see we put that in there. Go back to our package.json file, and now you see it's here as well. Alright, so now we have our gulp file and our package.json file fully configured. So now let's go back to our web browser. We're going to go over here and type out underscores.me. We're going to give our theme the name of devwp. This is a starter theme. We're going to sassify it. We give it our name, our slug, author name, and then the URI and developer theme. We're going to generate it. It'll download. Once it's done, we can then go back to our downloads folder. We can extract that. We can take that folder there. These are all the files that are coming in our starter theme. We can copy it. Now inside of our WordPress installation, we can go to wp-content, go into the themes folder, and just paste it right there. Now if we go back to our browser, go to themes, we now see we have it there. We can activate it. You can visit the front of our website, and it looks like nothing now. I'm going to be showing you how to design this out and install it out. And I just wanted to set you up first with your development environment. That's why I created this video. I wanted to show you how I get started. All right, so now if we go back over here, we can type out, let's go back to our themes folder. That's where we have git installed, so it's tracking our folder, right? So now we can do a git status. And now all of these need to be added to our staging environment, and they need to be committed. But we want to ignore some files. So we're going to have to create a .gitignore file in order to ignore the node modules, because those are very large and they don't need to be tracked. So we'll go back over here to our text editor, we'll go back to themes, and here we're going to type out .gitignore. Press enter. Now we have our .gitignore. So there's a lot of things in here that you're going to want to put, but to get started, we're just going to put in node_modules. And what we're going to see is that this is going to be grayed out once we save this. And now it's grayed out. So that means it's no longer being tracked. So now if we go back over here, clear the screen, get status. Now we see we no longer have the node modules being tracked. Now we just have to add the .getignore, the dev-project gulp file, and the package.json, and the new theme that we created, dev.wp. So we can just type out git add period. It'll start installing everything. It'll stage everything. Type out git status again. And now we have to commit it. And now we see that we have a clean working tree. Now let's go into our dev project folder. And now I'm going to type out the command gulp. This is how you get gulp working. And now it opened it up in a new browser tab. So you can take this information and you can visit it from a browser in your smartphone, tablet, or whatever. X out of that, X out of that. Now if we go over here to PHPMyAdmin, we refresh this. We see we have our WordPress database, 12 tables added, and this is the information. This is the one that we have logged in. If you go back over here, you get some information on the back end. But now if we go back to our text editor, and if we go into dev.wp, and if we go into the Sass file, let's go over here real quick, and I'm just going to add some information. And then I want you to see what happens here. So what I'll do is I'll snap this to the right. And then once I change this over here, I'm going to save it. You see now that we saved that, Gulp processed it. And now our main style sheet has changed as well. Now if we go back to the Sass file and we remove that, save it again, it processes it, and now it's gone there as well. Alright, so now you see the information has changed here. Now we have the maps for the CSS, and this is how we're going to be proceeding with developing our theme. Now this may be a lot to absorb at this point in time, but you're going to see how working with Sass, with Gulp, with Git is going to be a great way to increase your productivity and your workflow when you're developing WordPress themes, plugins, or any type of project. I'm going to go back to the browser here. I'm going to start adding some plugins. We'll look at the installed ones. We'll get rid of those in a moment. We'll install theme check. Then we'll look for developer. It's going to be this one down here. We'll activate that one. We're going to choose the theme for self-hosted WordPress installation, or if you're working on a plugin, you can choose that one. Save changes. And then we can install some of these options over here. So we can add the monster widget, that's good to use. User switching is pretty good. Show the IDs. We already have that theme check. We can install debug bar, debug console, log deprecated notices. Regenerate thumbnails is a good one. And we can get developing. We can go over here. We're going to check that off and that off. Delete, apply. And we're going to activate those. And now we have the debug bar console, developer, and these other ones as well. We're going to add a new one. Show template file. It's going to be this one over here. Show current template. We'll install that and activate it. Now what I like about this one is when you go to the front of your site, it'll tell you what template file you're using. So that's going to be handy when you're developing the theme. If we go back to our git bash over here, we can either Control-C out of this, or we can go down here and we could open up a new one. And it's good to work side by side. So now I'm just going to change directories. Now I see I'm in my master branch, and then I can do a git status here. And we see some information's been changed. Now we don't see the plugins added because we're only tracking the themes folder. So if we add another theme, like if we go back over here, go to themes, add a new one. Let's say we're going to add the 2016. We'll install it. And we go here again. Now we see we have to add the 2016 theme. All right, so we could just type out git add. It'll add everything there. Clear the screen. Now we see we have to take care of those. And now we see we're working from another clean tree. Now we can look at our git log again, and we can see the different commits that we made. And again, I'm going to do a more thorough tutorial on how to use this, because Git is a great way to manage your workflow. And Gulp is a great way to ensure that you're automating the process when you're coding. Because what you could do, in your Sass folder, you have everything organized. So if we go here, we see that we're importing these various sections, the variable sites, mixin, normalize, typography, elements, forms, and we have them in a specific order. Now we can just work with each of those sections independently and keep our CSS file properly organized. This is really going to enhance your workflow. I definitely recommend it. So when we move forward in designing our custom theme, this is the workflow we're going to be using. We're going to be working with Sass, Gulp, Git, WordPress. We have our text editor, and we have our local server. Alright, so I'm going to end this video over here. I just wanted to get you started in the workflow that we're going to be using. Now you should have everything you need to get started. We have our text editor, our local server. We now see we have phpMyAdmin. We have Git installed, Node.js. We have our WordPress installation. We have Gulp installed. And we're properly tracking our files. We're working within Git Bash, and we're going into our htdocs folder, into our WordPress installation, wp-content, themes, and we created that folder that's being tracked, and Gulp is watching it. This is just to get you started with the right developer tools in order to create websites. We're going to take this further. We're going to enhance this .gitignore file. I'll give you some more code that you could use to ignore operating system files that are automatically created and some other files that you may not want to have tracked over here. I'll show you the power of Sass and how it's going to streamline your CSS workflow. We'll go through the process of enhancing our package.json file with more packages, and then we'll go further into our Gulp file.js and see how we can enhance this. There's some more steps that we're going to go through. In the next video, I'll show you that we're going to have to add some more folders here to our default theme that we're going to be working with. We're going to create some new files that's going to work in conjunction with the Gulp file.js. Alright, so if you enjoyed the video, if you found it helpful, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and leave your comments down below. I'll see you next time. Take care.